Good afternoon. Welcome to Oklahoma, America. We welcome everyone here for this luncheon today. I'd like to call on our director, National Rural Water Director from Arkansas, to lead us in the pledge and an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Our most gracious and heavenly Father, as we gather in this beautiful state that you have provided to us, we offer you our praise and are thankful for many blessings that you have bestowed on each and every one of us. We ask a special blessing today on those gathered here who serve their communities and their states in such a manner to make life more comfortable and more easy for each and every one of them. We ask you, dear Lord, to bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies so that we may be of service to you. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Energy in Oklahoma City is a white-hot bedrock industry. Propelled by several years of economic momentum so intense, it raised a chorus of national media that declared the city recession-proof. But OKC continues to rise among the ranks of American cities, riding a renaissance that's become a model for high-octane change. At its core is how OKC has surged ahead as an energy hub. Recruiting is easy because, as One Energy CEO says, Oklahoma City has no downsides. The city's reputation for oil and gas innovation is legend. But nothing foretold the notion that once George Mitchell's pursuit of shale showed promise, the unconventional shale revolution would spring from 3 companies in one city, this city. GE was so impressed, it based a 3-year plan to triple its investment in oil and gas R&D in OKC.
GE said from the start that we want to be co-located with industry leaders that are really specializing in onshore production, because we want to be able to work directly with those engineers to figure out what are your needs, what are your technology gaps, and then let's go fill that technology gap. And that's exactly what it was. It was that continuum of Continental to Chesapeake to Devon and really to Sandridge, and just being able to locate next to those industry leaders and say, okay, what's your problem? Now let's work together to solve the problem.
This has really been a hub of innovation over the years, and it's had that history of deep roots in the energy sector and innovation and doing things differently.
Oklahoma City has enough size and scale with energy companies. You have small independents, large independents, super regional independents, midstream companies, service businesses, so the whole spectrum of energy. It's got critical mass, and importantly, there's a lot of local support.
The state is friendly to oil and gas operators, have been for an awfully long time. We're not outsiders, we're insiders here within Oklahoma. And we're treated like that. A lot of oil and gas people have been very generous with their time, effort, money, and built this state over time. And it's nice to be a part of that.
We're supported by a great community that loves the oil and gas industry, where many people have either worked in the industry already or have relatives or friends that work in the industry.
Oil and gas has always been a part of Oklahoma. It's very embedded or ingrained in the culture and the spirit of the state. The state government, local governments, the citizens, and the communities in which we operate are very supportive of oil and gas.
And they recognize how important the energy industry is to not only this region, but to the country.
So as the shale revolution continues, so does this urban transformation.
The rebuilding of Oklahoma City has just been tremendous. It's a great place. Who would have thought that we could have rebounded like we have? And it's very exciting. There's so much going on, and it's been done in such a fabulous way.
Since the beginning of the MAPS projects, there's been an enormous change in just the momentum of the city, and there's so much going on here.
The city has such a dynamic feeling and such an energy about it that coming up here from Houston, I was extremely excited and have just found it to be one that's growing and thriving, and there's just a certain power and dynamic energy that's just contagious.
And so all of that kind of feeds on itself and continues to build this vibrant downtown community.
Oklahoma would certainly be a good spot to relocate near other oil leaders. Of course, be rubbing shoulders with a lot of good people.
It's so vibrant with so much eye on the ball focus of where we want to go. It's fabulous.
So we may be the second largest energy center in the country right now, but we're going to get a lot bigger.
Today, the shale age is just getting started, and the city that unleashed it is its epicenter. Energy's new HQ is OKC.
Well, it's quite a crowd. For those of you I haven't met or haven't met yet, I'm Mike Paik. I'm the executive director of one of the three organizations gathered here for this last three-day meeting and here in this room. The Groundwater Protection Council, the National Rural Water Association, and the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission. You'll have heard and hear from others the unique relationship with our three organizations. I think what's important, and again you'll hear this, is that all three organizations were chartered and are headquartered in Oklahoma. All three are national associations, so kind of an historic day. Uncharacteristically, that's about all I'm going to say. Those of you who know me, this will be the shortest talk I ever give. So I'd like to continue the program this morning by introducing my president of the Groundwater Protection Council, Leslie Savage, from the second greatest state in the country, Texas.
Good afternoon now, I guess. This is the biggest birthday party I've ever been to. And we have cake and cheesecake, so that's wonderful. I'm Leslie Savage. I've been with the Railroad Commission of Texas for 32 years, November the 7th. First week I worked at the commission, I had Election Day and Veterans Day off, and my husband at the time asked me, now what kind of job did you get? So hadn't happened that way since then. I do want to, before I start, acknowledge a couple of people. Chairman Bob Anthony of the Oklahoma Corporation Commission. If you'll stand, Chairman. And I don't know if my chairman, David Porter of the Railroad Commission, is here. I know he was here earlier, but I'd like to acknowledge him. Also, Mike Smith is the executive director of the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission. It's his agency having the birthday party today. And Mike Paik, you've met. We're going to hear later from Mr. Charles Hilton, the president of the National Rural Water Association, and Governor Mary Fallin of Oklahoma. Now I'm going to go through really quickly. Was trying to think, I have a little bit of OCD and I like things wrapped up tight with bows, and so I was trying to think of how could we wrap this up today. The theme of the conference is where water and energy mix. And so I thought, well, I'll look at the missions and the initiatives of the three organizations that are participating today, this week. The National Rural Water Association their mission basically is training, supporting, and promoting water and wastewater professionals that serve small communities across the United States. Some of their initiatives are source water protection and energy efficiencies. I was talking to some of the members. I think I've been to a couple of meetings where we have co-located, and I always make a point of talking to some of the members of NRWA. And what always interests me is that although a lot of them are local and state, the rural and state, they are very well educated and can discuss a lot of the national issues that the other two organizations are working on. And I think that demonstrates the passion that they have, that we all have with respect to water, and it's also a tribute to NRWA. For IOGCC, it basically is oil and gas, an organization of oil and gas producing states. They promote the conservation and efficient recovery of domestic oil and gas resources while protecting health, safety, and the environment. And some of their issues and initiatives are states' rights, hydraulic fracturing, produced water, and environmental stewardship. So we've got some links there. The Groundwater Protection Council is an organization of state groundwater agencies. We're regulators, basically. And it provides a forum for communication and research to improve government's role in the protection and conservation of groundwater. Some of the issues that we deal with include water quality, water availability, water and energy, and state data management of information with respect to groundwater. So there are a lot of commonalities between the three groups. One of the things, for example, one of the initiatives that has been begun by Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission and the Groundwater the Groundwater Protection Council is the state's first initiative. And basically, the two groups collaborate and communicate in an ongoing effort to keep current with rapidly changing technology and share the best regulatory procedures. These programs under this initiative are designed to empower the states to create their own solutions. We understand that each state is different and unique, but there are some commonalities. We get together, communicate, collaborate, and try to come up with solutions, and then the individual state representatives go back and create solutions that are appropriate for the unique conditions of each state. Some of the efforts from that initiative include UIC peer reviews, underground injection control peer reviews, the National Inspector Certification Program, FRAC Focus, and the recent Induced Seismicity Work Group. It is the efforts and collaboration of the organizations and their members that make us all much better. I'd like to introduce my counterpart, Mr. Charles Hilton, who is the president of the National Rural Water Association. And it's basically a foundation of state rural water associations. And I want to mention a couple of things. I was talking to Mr. Hilton at lunch. He is from South Carolina, but his family originally was from Georgia, and I'm actually originally from Georgia. And the more he talked, the more I was afraid I was going to get up here and talk like this. So I didn't, but I was tempted. I also want to say that only in Oklahoma would the grand prize for the raffle be a 12-gauge shotgun. So.
If Oklahoma is number one, Texas is number two, I'm not going to ask where South Carolina is in that rating. So it is good to be here. It's good to represent National Rural Water Association. The theme this year has been Where Water and Energy Mix. And as I thought about this in the conference, the theme, what better nexus could we talk about than water and energy? Our industry, it's a very critical part of what we do, be it power, be it fuel, be it natural gas, because without energy, we as utility providers fail. There is no way we can go forward. When we develop our emergency response plans, the first thing we do is fuel availability and how we're going to get replacement fuel. But the connecting part of all of that, our link of energy being supplied to us and the energy providers supplying it back, there's a nexus, and that's water. Energy providers need water, we need energy, but the commonality between the two is water. We have partnered with the Groundwater Protection Council for a number of years now, and so I welcome our newest partner, the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission. I welcome our Governor, Mary Fallin, to our conference, and on behalf of National Rural Water, may I extend to you a personal thanks for being here with us at this conference. I should say just a little bit about National Rural Water, who we are, what we do, where we've been. And I hope you are aware we were founded here in Oklahoma in 1976. Our headquarters is about an hour down the road in Duncan. We've been there since day one, and we will continue to stay there. There was a beginning of 7 state associations in 1976 that formed this group together. Today we're in all 50 states through 49 associations, and we represent over 30,000 utilities. Most of our membership represent 10,000 people or less. And you say, well, is that kind of critical? 92% of the water systems in the United States serve 10,000 or less. So yes, we are a vital force in what is done in providing training and technical assistance to these small systems. I travel across this great nation of ours. I meet with these system specialists that run these. And oftentimes in small rural communities, if you're not familiar with this, not only are they the water operator, they're probably the librarian, perhaps the police chief, and maybe the coroner too, who knows. These guys do it all. And it's because of a passion that they have of serving their fellow citizens. So we have been around for a long time, and people question, how do we do this? We do this through our federal partners. We have a long-standing relationship with the United States Department of Agriculture. We welcome you and say thanks again for what you do. That relationship goes for many, many years. Farm Services Administration helps us with our source water protection plan. And Peter is here, and the Environmental Protection Agency has been critical in providing us with funding to do training for our operators and folks across the United States. So it's been a partnership. And then it has been expanded to our states, to our state regulatory agencies. And we work with them through the state revolving loan funds to again provide additional technical assistance that we ensure that our nation's citizens get the safest potable water supply that can be provided of anywhere in the world. So today I welcome you to this, our session. To our friends at the Groundwater Protection Council, thank you for again joining us in Oklahoma City, being with us here to enjoy this great state, enjoy this great city. To the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission, thank you for joining us also, because all of us are here for one reason, and that's protecting the greatest resource that we have, the resource that connects us together, water. May God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Okay. I'm a little bit nervous. This is the first time that I've ever introduced a governor. And so I'm honored, but I'm also a little bit scared. And I understand, just reading the biography of the governor of Oklahoma, there were a lot of firsts, have been a lot of firsts during her history representing Oklahoma on both the state and the national stage. She's state representative, first Republican and first woman lieutenant governor, U.S. House of Representatives, chairman of the National Governors Association, first woman governor of Oklahoma, and she's the 2016 chairman of the IOGCC. My boss, Lori Rotenberry, who came from Oklahoma just recently, told me that you would not mind if I told everybody that this is probably the first time in all of those roles that they've had a motorcycle mama in any of those roles. She said that you ride motorcycles, which I thought was kind of cool. But anyway, I would love to introduce, please welcome Governor Mary Fallin.
Thank you. All right, Leslie, that's true. I do love Harleys. I have a great time. It's kind of my way of getting away from the Capitol, the High Patrol, letting the wind blow through my hair, putting on my black leather. I was riding downtown not too long ago, a couple years ago. Had my hair in a ponytail, had my helmet on, a black leather jacket, jeans, my boots, trying to be inconspicuous. Rode downtown, got just about a couple blocks from here, and I'm at the corner, and it was on a Sunday, not too many people downtown. Some guy was walking across the sidewalk, and there was a red light, and I'm sitting there, and I went, you know, trying to be cool. Didn't know what I was doing, but it was fun. I don't get to ride very often. So this guy's walking along, and he turns around, and he looks at me, and he goes, Oh, wait. He goes, oh my God. It was kind of funny. I said, yep, that's me. I don't actually own a Harley. I just get to ride my friends sometimes whenever they've lost their mind. But anyway, thank you, Leslie. Thank you for your service. We appreciate all that you do and appreciate your service to the Groundwater Protection Council, and especially excited to have all your members that are here today. Charles, thank you for your leadership too. We're excited to have your leadership of the Rural Water Organization Association. Thank you for all your members that have joined us here at the IOGCC and all the IOGCC members that have joined us here today. I thought that was kind of interesting, Leslie, that you were, and Mike, I should say, who introduced Leslie a few months ago, said something about the being in the number one state with the number two state of Texas. In about 2 weeks, we're going to make that the number 2 state in the nation in football too, when Oklahoma plays Texas. See what you don't have to put up with, Charles? South Carolina. I can't think of anything to say about that other than I love South Carolina. I don't know what your football team's like this year. All I care about is beating Texas. Although I had to admit to Leslie a few moments ago, my son, who's just turned 25 on Saturday, moved to Texas. It was the worst day of my life. Being the governor of Oklahoma and your son moves to Texas. That's awful. But anyway, this is a very historic occasion. I mean, think about what you've done this week. You brought together the important organizations of the IOGCC, the NRWA, and the GWPC. I got to remember all these acronyms. It gets complicated. And you came together in one room to sit down, to collaborate, to talk, to share ideas, best practices, frankly, talking about the challenges and opportunities that are ahead for our nation and certainly for our states with your various members. And that truly is a remarkable thing, to bring together where water and energy mix. Such an important issue for our nation. And I had the opportunity to come briefly Monday during your opening ceremonies and be able to talk. And one of the things I said was that good energy policy makes for good environmental policy. Good energy policy makes for good environmental policy, because we do want to responsibly produce oil and gas and our fossil fuels, but it also must include responsibly making sure that we have good conservation practices in place and responsibly use our water resources and have good water conservation, because it's just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for our earth and our nation, our society. So it's not only fitting, but it's necessary for all those who advocate for responsible public policy to come together, our water and energy mix, to be able to protect our wonderful resources, natural resources that we have and that we're very fortunate to have, especially in our energy producing states, our oil and gas producing states, along with the responsibility of being good stewards of our land and our water and our air. And that's what all of you have been doing here this week. So I want to say thank you, first of all. Thank you for your vision, your foresight to bring everybody together, to have wonderful speakers, great important topics. Hope you've had a little bit of fun. Thank you for producing some good policy initiatives, good data, good information, good best practices, and I hope you've had a good time. You got to see a video, by the way, of Oklahoma City, so I know you're going to be leaving pretty soon, but I hope during this week that you've got to visit Bricktown, hopefully got to see the National Memorial Museum, maybe go to the Botanical Gardens, Myriad Gardens, maybe seeing the river, walk through the different restaurants, hotels, and I hope you spend a whole heck of a lot of money, because it makes me look good, and if you didn't, come back with your families for a vacation later. It's also been a very impressive who's who crowd at this conference, because you've had all the relevant, important thought leaders, agency heads, public concerns and certainly private sector leaders that have been here, from top officials with the EPA to the U.S. Department of Energy, to those who are active in environmental issues, environmental leaders, to state oil and gas regulators from across the state, and certainly, I also don't want to forget our partners in Canada. Do we still have some of our Canadian friends that have joined us? They were here earlier on Monday, but we appreciate them making the trip all the way to Oklahoma. And I don't have to tell you how important oil and gas is to our nation and frankly even to our world. And it's important that we get our policy right. And for those of you who were here Monday, you probably heard me say that oil and gas and fossil fuels is a necessity to help us with what we call our planes, trains, and automobiles, our service and delivery of goods and services, certainly how we heat our homes, our businesses in many cases. But it's also important to growing our food supply, producing goods, being able to provide things like health services. I mean, I could go on and name how many different ways we use oil and gas and so many things that we use every single day in just our life. And so it is very important. It's important to our quality of life, and it's certainly important that we have what we all want, and that is affordable energy, reliable energy, and abundant energy. And that doesn't just stop within the United States of America. It also applies to over the borders and certainly in other countries. And there have certainly been millions upon billions of people around the world who have been lifted out of poverty because of an abundant, reliable source or sources developing within their countries that have helped those who needed a better quality of life. And so domestic oil and gas production is not only about economic security, but one of the things that's most important to me, just because it is personally, is national security. And I especially think about that in the times and ages that we live in right now, with all the different things going on across the world, how critical it is for national security that we continue to produce America's domestic energy supply. And we've been very fortunate because of innovation and technology to see that grow and grow and grow, and it's been really exciting to see that. But we also have to have a reliable, affordable supply of energy, of oil and gas, because that's how we keep safe with our military. That also needs that too. And of course, I'm always an advocate and have always been that we try to utilize American-produced energy and how we need to reduce our reliance upon energy that comes from hostile regions of the world. I mean, but not only that, as a governor of an oil-producing state, if you've seen any of our videos that have run during this conference, you've seen the original time that the Capitol was built in 1917. It was an oil field. I don't know how many oil derricks was on that, Michael, but I've seen the pictures. It looked like 50 or 60 on that piece of land, but it was an oil field, Mike Smith. It was quite remarkable. We still have a producing oil well on our Capitol site right now. And so it's pretty fun. But energy's always been an important part of Oklahoma and our history, and certainly for our nation. It's also essential that we get energy policy right. Because in this day and age of social media, if we don't, well, you know how social media works, and different groups works. And yet we also know that in today's world, we do have opponents, those who don't like fossil fuels, those who don't like the energy sector, the oil and gas sector in particular, whether it's in media, academia, environmental type groups, those in Washington, those who can organize and are deeply passionate and committed, as we may be, about the different issues that we've been working on at this conference. So it's important that the members of the IOGCC and the energy producing states are just as engaged. And one of the things I always tell people about policy, and Leslie, you kind of alluded to it, but I've had the opportunity to serve in public office 25 years now, so I've been through a lot of political battles here and in Washington, D.C., but I want to encourage your groups, whether you're in the water business or whether you're in the energy business, whatever business you might be, to stay ahead of the issues. I always like to look down the road challenges and challenges that may come up, and frankly even opportunities, because if you're not actively looking down the road of what your policy should be and what your adversarial different groups might do or say to your organization, it'll catch up with you. It's always just better to be ahead of it and to be anticipating it and to be frankly addressing the concerns of the general population, not just some groups that are out there, but the general population that lives here. And so that's what IOGCC is about, is coming together, and certainly with the water sectors and associations in one voice, talking about the issues of the day, the policies of the day, and how we can work together. It's not only about communication, but it's also about developing a good plan and developing good policy. And that's something that we all want to do, not only locally, but certainly nationally. And Leslie, I heard you say several times, and maybe some others a few moments ago, how important it is that we look at states' rights. I'm all about states' rights. We certainly don't get the answers out of Washington right now. Thank you, I agree. And sometimes, in fact, many times, I feel like our states get trampled upon, and we got a lot of good agency heads, a lot of good associations. They have wonderful, innovative, creative ideas, and many times those great ideas, those great policy ideas start locally, whether it's a local community, whether it's along the state, and they take those policy ideas up to Washington. I know Secretary Teague, my Secretary of Energy and Environment, I combine the two, which I think is smart policy. I know he works constantly with the EPA and other organizations. They respect him, he respects them. But he brings up those ideas that we develop here locally in Oklahoma and then even regionally with the states surrounding our area. And I think the states need to have a voice and need to help share their good best practices and do things they can to help keep that communication going with Washington, D.C. You know, we also want to make sure that we have the right amount of regulation, but yet we also don't have unnecessary regulations that stifles economic growth, innovation, and certainly development of our resources. And as I said, we certainly believe that states have good policies that they can contribute to the discussion itself. And all that, as I mentioned about oil and gas, includes water. We know a little bit about water. In fact, Texas knows a little bit about water. California knows a little bit about water. I can mention other states that have gone through extreme droughts. And so we care about water. We all care about having clean, safe water. It's important not only for the energy sector, but it's important for everyday life. Our consumption of water, it's important for economic development, that we have the water that we need and that we take care of it, that we conserve it, that we protect it, that we make sure it's healthy and clean. And so all these policy decisions that you've been talking about also includes the responsible reuse and frankly even the management of water. And that's what your water associations have been doing. And so developing and improving collaboration and talking about policy and industry practices that can protect and conserve our water is one of the best ways that we can work together as a team effort. Because I do really truly believe that we have an obligation to be able to make sure that we're good stewards of our land and our water and our air, because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for future generations of citizens that will live on this earth and even our own children. So our friends at the National Rural Water Association and communities they serve are dealing with water issues every day. And we know it can be very, very challenging. The Groundwater Protection Council has certainly done a great job in working with the oil and gas producers and other industries and governments, whether local, state, or federal, to promote best practices across our country. And then, of course, the IOGCC has had a great track record in working with water management in the oil field, which I think is very, very important. And when the public does express concern, I think it is important to have scientific, fact-based information, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet that's not always fact-based, but it is important to listen to the public, to address their concerns, to share information and to make sure that we're well aware that those concerns are out there. And so when in Oklahoma, and I know in the other states that are part of ILGC when different public people have expressed concerns about, say, hydraulic fracking or even disposal wells, ILGC member states listened and have certainly worked with the Groundwater Protection Council in other states, and they launched a great successful program that I've been talking about for years, the Frac Focus program. Very, very proud of that. That's a solution that came from the states and spread throughout. Made that information public to people. They can find online exactly what's being used in the fracked wells across the country. They can learn more about the process and how that's involved from a scientific standpoint, how it's done, and what we do to keep our water safe, or especially our drinking water. And so I'm very pleased that the third version of the program is getting ready to come out, which is going to be launched at Frac Focus 3.0. I got that right. Good. Which will be even more sophisticated and also, I think, provide great information. So what we're taking is the interstate of the research, the coordination of all of these different projects. That's, I think, a great example of why energy-producing states must work together with groups, as the water councils that I just mentioned here, and that we shouldn't just operate as a vacuum looking at the issues that just concern our own organizations. Because when we do work together, we can get some of the best policies, the best practices. We can help alleviate any concerns or information or lack of information that may be out there. We also know at this point that we're drilling for oil and gas, and the energy sector is going to be using water and producing water. And that's why innovative companies all across our country are searching for ways to use and reuse the water, whether it's for agriculture, irrigation, whether it's power generation, whether it's water supply, or a variety of other purposes. I mean, we should just do that because it's the right thing to do. So in Oklahoma, for an example, we do believe in water conservation. We work very, very hard at that. We do believe in water reuse, water repurpose. We actually developed several years ago a statewide water plan for our state. We use it. It's not just on a shelf. We have a committee. We actually have a water council. And several years ago, when we were going through our terrible, terrible drought, thinking about, listening to some about water infrastructure and needs of the communities and all the different things you have to deal with on a community level, we actually put some money into a grant program, and I set up a committee, and that committee objectively looks at the needs of the state and prioritizes that, and then helps communities with their water infrastructure and their water needs. So that's been something we did. And then in 2012, I also signed another piece of important legislation called Water for 2060, in which basically our goal was that we would consume no more fresh water in 2060 than what we do today. In other words, looking down the road, anticipating the needs of our state. And so in that plan and in that law, we actively and aggressively pursue water conservation practices, but without stifling economic growth. Because frankly, economic growth and having the abundance and availability of water is connected. I mean, I've had some communities that during the drought last year, one with a military installation that was frankly just flat out running out of water. I think their lake had about 17% of the water left. It was scary. And this community came up to me and said, not only can our cotton producers and our ag producers in our communities don't have the water that they need, but by the way, Governor, we may be at risk of losing this military installation. And that really got my attention. And thank God it rained and it filled that lake back up. But we were already working ahead of time before it even rained to make sure that we were helping that community with water infrastructure to be able to produce the water that they need, drilling wells, helping with sewage and waste disposal systems and other things, pipes and pipeline water pipes and other things that we needed to do. And so for all of our goals to be realized, the energy sector and certainly the water sector need to be able to talk and to communicate. We've also been working on recycling of produced water for fracked new wells, and we're taking even steps to limit the use of treated fresh water and trying to reuse water. So the state government is helping in that, and I'm very proud. I know we got some of our corporation commissioners that are here, as they've been working along with our Department of Environmental Quality, that is here also to eliminate barriers and to have a conversation about how we can reclaim wastewater that's used in the oil patch, to be able to use it wisely, to be able to conserve that water, and to provide operators hopefully with even a different source other than fresh water to use. We've also been collaborating on water conservation and recycling in Oklahoma. As I mentioned, we'd gone through a horrible drought for 7 years. We finally have emerged from that. We still got some little pockets that had a little bit drier a couple of months, so I think it's always important to be on top of that. But every drop of water is important, and that's why this conference has been so great, to bring conservation leaders and the energy sector together. It's also important that we preserve the safety of our drinking water, and certainly that comes up a lot with the drilling of our energy supplies. And so we want to do everything we can to make sure that we're safely drilling, safely protecting our water supplies. Last year, over 1,200 million barrels of salt water were disposed in Oklahoma. That's a lot, in disposal wells. And for those of you who are from Oklahoma, that's the equivalent of the size of Lake Thunderbird, which is one of our nice sized lakes in Oklahoma. That's how much water we used over the last year, with 1,200 million barrels of salt water that were disposed. And then many of you may have recently heard that we have experienced an uptick in seismic activity in Oklahoma. We always have had seismic activity, and certainly technology has identified seismic activity maybe we didn't realize was occurring before, because we have great new innovation and geological processes that we can measure and see those things. But we have had an uptick in seismic activity in Oklahoma, and earthquakes have risen since 2011. And certainly that's another concern, not only for the industry, but it's a concern for me, it's a concern for consumers and families and businesses. And so we know that as we gather more information, more statistics, that science can be ever evolving, but we want to get scientific driven, factual information, not just information that's floating around the internet on some Twitter site, but to actually make sure that we know exactly factual data as we make policy. But we also know we can't ignore the issue, and that we have to certainly look at anything that might be contributing to that rise in the cause of earthquakes. So we certainly have worked very hard over the last many, many years to bring everybody together at the table, whether it was people who are environmentalists, whether it's people with the U.S. Geological Survey, certainly the energy sector, our academia with our research institutions, geologists, whoever it might be, with policymakers, to sit down at a table, and we've done this for a couple of years, to work together to analyze it, make sure we get public policy right, work with the Corporation Commission and other entities. And we did identify that there are strong correlations and cases between disposal wells, their depth, their velocity, their rock formation, that can cause earthquakes in certain areas of our state. So just like the IOGCC did with Frac Focus, we want to be ahead, as I mentioned, ahead of the issue. We want to be transparent. We want to be accountable. We certainly want to be proactive on this issue. So in September of 2014, I formed what's called a Coordinating Council on Seismic Activity, and appointed all the different interest groups that I just mentioned to help the state develop a plan of action to take that data that we could glean from everyone and to make sure that we were doing the best we could to look at how we could address the issue and do it wisely without certainly harming the economic activity that we certainly enjoy and the revenue, frankly, that we certainly enjoy. So the council has worked very hard to ensure that the energy sector, the state agencies, the environmentalists, and the academia, we're all talking and sharing that data, and that we have a scientific-based approach to reducing seismicity in our state. And by the way, that is not caused by natural resources, because we do have, or natural causes, I should say, because there are natural things that just happen to cause earthquakes in our state with fault lines. So the Groundwater Protection Council has certainly been at the table from day one, helping us to look at those data systems, modernize our data systems, and continue to focus on how we can improve our seismicity response and address water management in the field itself. The Corporation Commission has been wonderful. They regulate the oil and gas industry in our state, and they've taken a very active and proactive role. Once again, science-based approach responding to the earthquakes. And one of the things I'm very proud of is that our Corporation Commission has what they call, maybe some of your other states do, maybe you don't, but they have a system called the red, yellow, green light system, in which they have all the U.S. Geological Survey information. Frankly, the energy sector has great information about formations and different areas in our state, and they take that scientific information, and if we have an area that we're currently disposing wells and doing production, and we see an uptick, or maybe it's in earthquakes, or maybe it's on a known fault line, which we've been able to better identify with innovation and technology, and they see that, then they have a system to where they can say no go on that disposal well, and they have shut down disposal wells, or they just said, no, you're not going to put a disposal well on that fault line, or they may have a yellow signal, which they say, we're monitoring this, be careful about this, or maybe you can go down this depth. And then they have a green light, which says, there's no seismic activity in that area, no known fault lines, and you should be fine to go in that area. But the point is, they've been proactive, staying ahead of the issues and trying to do everything they can to make good, informed decisions on a concern to all of us in the state, and that has certainly been very, very helpful. Corporation Commission has also been working very hard on geological mapping, which is very, very important, bringing together, once again, the cooperation of all the different groups. They've also addressed the depths, the volumes of wells in certain areas of our state where we've had some issues, and we're going to continue to monitor this, adjust it as needed, and certainly they do that because I get the phone calls. And certainly it's an issue for everybody. So it's a big issue, but once again, I'm proud of the research, the data, the cooperation, the different groups that have been working together, and I know that's what IOGCC and the Groundwater Protection Council is certainly interested too. And then, of course, very proud that in May of 2014, participating agencies from the 13 different states worked together to proactively collaborate, to work together to share science, research, practical information that has come from those states' innovation, the states' policies, to equip states with the best practices, the best decision-making tools that you can all utilize to be able to execute good strategies to reduce seismic activity and certainly to minimize any type of risk. And so that effort has bore fruit, which I know that you produced the primer report, which is great. Primer report. Primer. It's South Carolina versus Oklahoma slang versus Texas, whatever. Primer report, probably what you want to call it. Thank you for doing that. Congratulations. Job well done. Lots of good work that has been done. And if you haven't read it, you should. It certainly has a wealth of information. I hope that the industry will use it. Other states will use it. It's a great report that gives us some really, really important information. It also helps states be very proactive on tough issues. These are tricky issues. They're not easy to deal with. It's not always black and white. And so having this report will certainly help us with our water issues and certainly with the different issues that we deal with. So thank you to all the three groups that have worked so hard that have met here. Thank you for being here this week. I hope you've had a wonderful time. I hope you've learned a lot of different things from each other, not only in energy production, but certainly protecting our water, conserving our water, learned a little bit about best practices or challenges, but yet also the opportunities ahead we can collaborate and work together. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you as your ILGCC chairman. Thank you once again for that opportunity. And before you leave the state, if you hadn't had a chance to go out and see the different museums, the different restaurants, and the different shopping areas and spend some money, please do it. Helps us in our state. But once again, thank you. Hope you've had a wonderful, productive conference.
Thank you, Governor Fallin. You know, she was talking about you can't believe everything you read on the internet, and I just read a quote not long ago. It said, and it actually said that. It said, most information on the internet is unverified, Ben Franklin, 1784. I want to recognize Mike Smith and Mike Paik. You know, when we first started talking about bringing people together and energy and water mixing, we also talked about you know, what it's really all about is people connecting. And I hope you did that this year and made some friends and some acquaintances that help us all out in our missions as we move forward. Great. Again, thanks Mike Smith and Mike Paik for all the work of their staff and so forth. Have a great trip home. We hope you come back to Oklahoma, and we hope to see you again. Thank you.